Well, this story is a doozy. The Trump administration accidentally texted me its war plans, claims Jeffrey Goldberg. U.S. national security leaders included me in a group chat about upcoming military strikes in Yemen. Now, that may be. And if it is, talk about embarrassing. You've got a guy here. Is this rolling? Seems like there we go. Okay, it's rolling. That was weird. We have there's like a weird delay. No, that was extended. But anyway, I digress. This story may be, on its face, embarrassing for the Trump administration in that they accidentally created a group chat to discuss bombing Yemen and included a liberal Russia journalist. Then there's the other story, and that's they intentionally created the group chat with a script that took 2 days to write, and they wanted him to espouse their narrative to the world. Look, I don't know exactly, but I think there's a strong possibility that these journalists are dumb as a box of rocks. And the Trump administration, should they have actually included him, did it intentionally so that he would report their words behind the scenes, which I got to be honest, makes him look kind of good. J.D. Vance saying, we can't bomb Yemen. This goes against Trump's message. And then Hegseth says, but we're the only ones in the world who can put a stop to this. And then there's J.D. Vance saying, I get it, you're right, but I really want to keep bailing out Europe. U.S. trade doesn't even go through here. It really sounds like a PR message distilled through a moron who thinks he got leaked information. So the American people think they're getting a genuine behind-the-scenes look at the difficult decision to bomb Yemen. Let's be real. When they decided to have a conversation about bombing Yemen, they didn't do it over Signal. They met at the Pentagon. They're all in D.C. as it is. What a ridiculous story. But maybe I'm crazy and everybody else is crazy. So we'll talk about that. We got a bunch of other stories, my friends. A task force has been formed by the FBI to go after the swatters and the Tesla terrorists. Incendiary devices were found at an Austin, Texas Tesla dealership. And then, oh boy, I am really excited for this story, Sodagate. A bunch of conservative influencers were pushing a political message for money, it would seem, from a company that pays people to push these political messages called Influenceable. And they were arguing that it is government overreach to ban welfare recipients from buying soda. Well, the government overreach was when the government took them out of my pocket and gave it to someone else for whatever reason, let alone buying soda. But come on, are we going to let welfare recipients take public funds to buy soda in the first place? This story's crazy. It turns out there's this massive network of prominent conservative influencers who get paid to have political opinions. Looks like we found the grifters. To be honest, though, it wins. It does. I can't disparage an organization that astroturfs the same way the left does. If it is some kind of administrative civil war or otherwise, you need political messaging to win. So we will break all of that down, my friends. But before we do, head over to TNUSA.com/Tim. The IRS is the largest collection agency in the world, my friend. And with April 15th fast approaching, it's more aggressive than ever. In 2025, enforcement has ramped up. And if you owe back taxes or have unfiled returns, waiting is not an option. The longer you do, the worse it gets. Ignoring your tax troubles is the worst thing you can do. April 15th marks another tax year that has passed you by. Getting ahead of this is a smart move, but never contact the IRS alone. Instead, let the experts at Tax Network USA handle it for you. Why? Because not all tax resolution companies are the same. Tax Network USA has a preferred direct line to the IRS, meaning they know exactly which agents to deal with and which to avoid. With proven strategies to settle tax problems in your favor, whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, Tax Network USA's attorneys and negotiators have already resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. Talk with one of their strategists today. It's free. Stop threatening letters. Stop looking over your shoulder and protect yourself from property seizures and bank levies. Don't let the IRS control your future. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Tim. April 15th is just around the corner, my friends. Act now before the IRS does. And in case you didn't realize, this is a sponsored post. And I will get serious and say, I actually recommended these guys to some friends of mine. So we're very scrupulous when it comes to whether or not we take ads and do sponsor reads, and we're big fans. Shout out Tax Network USA. Appreciate the sponsorship. You can also go to castbrew.com. In fact, we are not paid to promote castbrew.com. Cast Brew is our coffee company, and make sure you pick up some Appalachian Nights. I think we've got a, let's see, here it is. Luck of the Seamus has arrived. So this is the Irish cream Seamus Freedom Tunes collab. There's only 293 in stock to start, so pick them up while you can. Really excited for this one. There is a special picture on the back of this bag, which you can't see on the website. So consider it a collector's edition, I suppose. But if you want to pick up Luck of the Seamus, go to Casper.com, grab that, and you'll be putting Seamus through college. Seamus doesn't need it, though. He's smart enough. Ian does, but, what are we going to do? Also, don't forget to join our Discord server. Go to timcast.com, click Join Us. Get in that Discord server. Don't just be a passive observer of the news. It's a good start. Be an active participant in this culture war, in this story. When you join the Discord server, you meet tens of thousands of like-minded individuals. They've got fitness channels. They've got podcasts. They've got video games. All of that really awesome stuff, my friends. So get on board today. Because, we really do want to see that you guys get involved and be a part of the story. Don't forget to smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Bradley Devlin.
How's it going?
Who are you? What do you do?
Bradley Devlin, politics editor at the Daily Signal, and it's good to be back.
Well, right on. Thanks for hanging out. Simple enough. We got Shane hanging out.
Happy birthday to Bradley.
Thank you.
It's your birthday.
It's his birthday.
Thank you.
Hey, right on. Happy birthday.
No better way to spend it.
How old are you?
27.
Wow, right on.
Nice. I'm Shane Cashman, host of Inverted World Live. Last night, my guest was Paranoid American. We talked about the very real experiments into adrenochrome dating back to the 1930s and his time at Disney and weird occult symbolism that I'm sure would not surprise many of you. That is in many of those movies. Phil, what is good?
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Levanti. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. Let's get into it.
Here's a story from The Atlantic, my friends. The Trump administration accidentally texted me its war plans. So says Jeffrey Goldberg. What a story indeed. They say, the world found out shortly before 2 p.m. Eastern time on March 15th, the U.S. was bombing Houthi targets in Yemen. I, however, knew 2 hours before the first bombs exploded that the attack might be coming. The reason I knew this is that Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, had texted me the war plan at 11:44 a.m. The plan included precise information about weapons, packages, targets, and timing. Now, of course, Pete Hegseth says, nah. He stunningly denies that war plans were leaked to a highly discredited journalist who dropped a bombshell report. I feel like this is fake. Let me show you why first. The story technically begins shortly after the Hamas invasion of southern Gaza. Okay, blah, blah, blah. On Tuesday, March 11th, I received a connection request for a signal from a user identified as Michael Waltz. Signal is an open source encrypted messaging service popular with journalists. We understand. I assumed that the Michael Waltz in question was Trump's national security advisor. I did not assume, however, the request was from the actual Michael Waltz. I met him in the past, and though I didn't find it particularly strange that he might be reaching out to me, I did think it's somewhat unusual given the Trump admin's contentious relationship with journalists. I accepted the request. 2 days later, Thursday, 4:28 p.m., I received a notice that I was to be included in a Signal chat group called Houthi PC Small Group. Message to the group from Michael Waltz read as follows. Team establishing a principals group for coordination on Houthis, particularly for the next 72 hours. My deputy, Alex Wong, is pulling together a Tiger team at Deputies Agency Chief of Staff level, following up from the meeting in the sit room this morning for action items, and I will be sending that out later this evening. The message included, please provide the best staff POC from your team for us to coordinate over the next couple of days in the weekend. The term Principals Committee generally refers to the group of the senior most national security officials, including the Secretary of Defense, State, and the Treasury, as well as the Director of the CIA. It should go without saying, but I'll say it anyway, I have never been invited to the White House Principals Committee meeting, and that many of the years of my reporting on national security matters, I had never heard of one being convened over a commercial messaging app. At this point, guy, 2 hours before the attack, and being texted the stuff, did it not occur to you that it's fake? I guess he says it did, but he still publishes the story, believing it to be real.
Surprised he didn't warn Yemen.
So blah, blah, blah. Let's get to the actual messages. March 14th, Michael Waltz texted the group, team, you should have a statement of conclusions with taskings per the president's guidance this morning in your high side inboxes. State of DOD, blah, blah, blah. At this point, a fascinating poly discussion commenced. The account labeled JD Vance said, team, I am out for the day doing an economic event in Michigan, but I think we are making a mistake. The Vance account goes on to state, 3% of U.S. trade runs through the Suez. 40% of European trade does. There is a real risk the public doesn't understand this or why it's necessary. The strongest reason to do this is, as POTUS said, to send a message. The Vance account then goes on to make a noteworthy statement, considering that the vice president has not deviated publicly from Trump's position. I am not sure the president is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. There's a further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices. I'm willing to support the consensus of the team and keep those concerns to myself, but there's a strong argument for delaying this a month, doing the messaging work on why this matters, seeing where the economy is, etc. A person identified as Joe Kent wrote, "There's nothing time-sensitive driving the timeline. We'll have the exact same options in a month." Now it goes on. I'm not going to keep reading this. Pete Hegseth says, VP, I understand your concerns and fully support you raising with POTUS important considerations, most of which are tough to know how they play out. I think the messaging is going to be tough no matter what. Nobody knows who the Houthis are, which is why we would need to stay focused on Biden failed and Iran funded. He goes on to say more and more about this. So they go on to mention that a spokesperson says that it appears to be a legitimate conversation, right? All right, let me just give you my quick assessment before we jump into the conversation. Otherwise, I'm going to read for 20 years all of these messages. Here you have the vice president, seemingly, talking with the Department of Defense, seemingly saying, what do we do? Nobody knows who the Houthis are. How do we inform the public as to who they are and why they're so bad? And that this really does matter to America. Are you kidding me? Well, I would include a journalist in the text message and then create scripted crap to be like, the Houthis are bad. Because the moron's going to be like, whoa, they texted me. Guys, look, the Houthis. So Donald Trump took a hit on the bombing of Yemen. People were sharing the interview I did with Trump where he said, you don't need to do this. A lot of people said it was inconsistent. And then all of a sudden, this journalist is like, look at this perfect script of a J.D. Vance saying, I don't think it's a good idea. And Hegseth saying, you might be right, but we need to send a message. The president thinks it's the right thing to do. Oh, come on. Do you guys think this was an accident?
It's an accident on purpose.
Right.
They sent it. He took the bait and ran with it.
Maybe it was.
I mean, look,
I don't know.
I don't have any sense as to whether or not it is or isn't an accident. The idea you laid out is completely plausible. It's also completely plausible that, someone had that dude's name in his phone and they put by the initials and they put the wrong initials in. That's plausible as well. And
maybe. But he literally says they don't the journalist says they don't do these meetings over commercial phone apps.
Like I said, I have no sense as to whether or not it does. Maybe they, it could. I completely think that people make dumb mistakes. So it could be that they made a dumb mistake.
Government.
But until I see what was ostensibly top secret information that was sent, until you actually show me that, this is a nothing burger.
Wait.
It's a PR stunt.
Look at this. Look at this message. It's like, as I heard it, the president was clear, green light, but we soon make it clear to Egypt and Europe what we expect in return. We also need to figure out how to enforce such a requirement. E.g., if Europe doesn't remunerate, then what? If the U.S. successfully restores freedom of navigation at great cost, there needs to be some further economic gain extracted in return. Everybody listening, I'm going to go ahead and say I believe strongly that this was intended to trick the journalist into publishing this message. The messages are scripted. The DOD does not green light 2 hours in advance strikes on a foreign country like this. I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but I'm willing to bet that considering the meetings I've been in and how slow everything is, bro, I can't install chicken wire in an hour. I can't install chicken wire in 1 hour. If I want chicken wire put up, I got to make like 3 phone calls and then complain why it's not getting done. And you think the government is just like, let's have a debate real quick over whether or not I'm going to press the button and fire the missiles from our destroyers off the coast of Yemen.
I mean, look, DOD Rapid Response has a clip of Hegseth on Fox News saying that you're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist. So I mean, look, they're denying that it's true.
How much again? One more thing.
Yeah.
What if some morbidly obese guy covered in Cheeto dust was sitting in his living room watching Fox News, eating Flamin' Hots, because they're awesome, by the way, and then decided to text this guy and hoax him? Well, and he believed it.
Someone just hoaxed Kanye, thinking it was Joe Rogan, and he tweeted about it, and Joe Rogan was like, that's not me.
Whoa.
So these things, those do happen. That was last week or two.
So there's a few different theories on this. Tim, will you go to the part of the story where the National Security Council responds? This one, I think, gives your theory a lot of credibility. If you are in this position, you deny right? You just deny, or you don't respond for comment. You don't like. Hegseth is now denying in front of the media. But here's what this spokesperson says. This appears to be an authentic message chain, and we are reviewing how an inadvertent number was added to the chain. The thread is a demonstration of the deep and thoughtful policy coordination between senior officials. The ongoing success of the Houthi operation demonstrates that there were no threats to troops or national security. Right. Hilarious to me. I think there's a few different theories. So one is like just complete BS. The guy eating Cheetos on the couch has duped this journalist with his buddies. One would be super metal if that was the case. The second theory is that this is some sort of concocted, not real, either AI or staffers pretending to have a high-level policy conversation with this journalist in a chat to promulgate that narrative.
I think it's scripted.
And then the third, or scripted. And then the third one is that it's real. You mentioned, if you don't show me the goods, I'm not going to believe it.
Yeah.
So this is about a military operation that has already happened. And so if that is the case, lawyers, the Atlantic has an army of lawyers to make sure that they can continue to destroy regular American people's lives on a regular basis and win in the courts. They should be able to have some sort of review to redact or include important information, but the screenshots that they include are just of this, what did they say? Deep and thoughtful policy coordination between senior officials. They could have had some sort of legal redaction.
Essentially,
right?
He said that they were waiting, or they didn't produce this. They didn't release this until after the attack or whatever had happened, right? So then, why is there no information coming out? Exactly.
Right. There should be some sort of redactions available to show that you actually had some evidence of prior knowledge of a strike.
It's already happened. Yeah.
Right.
Why are they having the debate literally 2 hours before bombing Yemen?
Yeah.
Wouldn't they have met in D.C. and then actually confirmed their plans in person? This makes literally no sense. Why is the vice president texting the Secretary of Defense his opinion on a strike they're prepared to carry out in a couple of hours?
Yeah.
Unless their real consideration was Trump was the anti-war president who said, we can't bomb these countries, and now we're planning on doing it. How do we get this narrative out there? Mm-hmm. How about, like, what if we release a statement, no one's going to buy it? But it's that meme where the Babylon Bee wrote that story. Ingenious move, Donald Trump comes out in support of impeachment, forcing Democrats to oppose. Whoops, we've accidentally revealed our true plans. Yeah. And it was a deep and thoughtful conversation about the collateral damage potentials, threats to our troops, the purpose behind the strike, and who the Houthis are. Mm-hmm. And now the American people's heard it all. Great. And all these liberals are laughing, being like, they're so dumb.
Right. It's like they don't care that their enemies or their perceived enemies look at them as incompetent through this. They just wanted the story out. If it is the case that it was planted in this journalist.
Well, it could be a coalition. So, like, I think one area where the President Trump and his administration has received a lot of pressure is on the more restraint-oriented side of the right so far, with people like Mike Waltz being national security advisor. And so they go through with strikes on Houthis, and that has been a major issue for the restraint-oriented right. Like, why are we involved in Yemen at all? And so if you want to shore up that side of your coalition, you put something out there like, you could put something out there like this that says, hey, that Vice President J.D. Vance, who the restraint community liked a lot, is advocating behind the scenes for the restraint position, and that is being received kindly by people like John Ratcliffe, like by people like, and Joe Kent's inclusion, that was interesting too. Oh, yeah. Like, Joe Kent was a big figure in this community when he didn't win his congressional runs. That was a bummer. And to see him get picked for the administration, that was a big deal for some people. Mm-hmm. So, JD in there, Joe Kent in there in this decision-making process, even when everyone seems kind of leagues higher than his administration position, and Hegseth, who has some credibility problems with the restraint community, coming in and saying, I totally get where you're coming from, JD. That could be the play, right? It's a coalition play for the own administration, because there was a New York Times piece like maybe it was a week ago about how people inside the administration are apparently calling the National Security Council the neoconservative Security Council. I don't know. Could be a motive. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything definitive, but that could be a motive.
They didn't give us strong messaging on the strikes against the Houthis in Yemen, and there was a backlash against it with a lot of people on the right saying bad. Now, all of a sudden, this guy leaks a message where you look at it and you're like, oh, I understand their justification. They're concerned about trade through Europe. They don't want to bail Europe out. They want to send a message to the Houthis. The Houthis are this, terroristic group that are striking these ships. Now, they've created a story where regular people will be exposed to it, and it's headline news everywhere. Every major outlet is talking about this.
Yeah. And like what Bradley's saying, the first things I saw when this story broke was people saying Vance is the most American first there.
Yep.
Like it's part of the PR
So think
quality
about,
to it.
I think about Donald Trump being a master manipulator of the media. Famously, in his 2016 campaign run, he got $5 billion worth of free press by gaming the media into constantly talking about him. And they made money from it too, so it was win-win. But that's how Trump dominated the airwaves with a minimal budget compared to the rest of these candidates. I don't see it as any different, and I don't know why Trump wouldn't be using that expertise now and why this wouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
But you know what? Hey, there's always a possibility it was an accident, and they're bumbling morons.
Definitely a possibility.
Speaking of influence, though, let's jump to this next story. From Li Fang, the sugary soda industry's covert influencer campaign falls apart. My friends, grifters are about, and it's going to get weird in this Trump term. So the long story short of this is that a handful of conservative influencers appear to have been paid to promote sugary beverages for welfare recipients. What a ridiculously weird thing to get paid to promote. But what you end up learning as you dig through the story is that there is a conservative leaning. It's a company that has reportedly been associated with large conservative influencer spheres of influence. A weird way to say it. But they pay money for prominent individuals on X and other platforms to promote specific products. Now, I got no problem if you're promoting a TV show. If for some reason you decided just today was the time to come and claim that Severance was a good show, maybe someone paid you. I got no beef with that. Promote your shows you like. I don't care if you're getting paid. It's a TV show. Ads for soda exist all the time. We do ads. We did an ad for this show. But when you're espousing political messages, now we got ourselves a problem because you're getting paid to be political. The bigger picture is, regardless of whether you're being paid to promote movies or video games or otherwise, you are legally required to disclose this. This is where the story gets crazy. Here's a story from Li Fang. Conservative social media influencers have been caught posting coordinated messages opposing proposed nutritional guidelines for SNAP benefits. That's welfare. Food stamps. After receiving payments from public relations firms. The campaign emerged as HHS Secretary Robert Kennedy explores limitations on SNAP benefits for sugary beverages. During fiscal year 2021, the program dispersed over $121 billion in benefits, with a significant portion spent on ultra sugary drinks that provide minimal nutritional value. Take a look at this. We've got Clown World. The government wants to block soda purchases for Americans on SNAP. Remember when NYC tried this and it completely backfired? President Trump proudly had a Diet Coke button in the Oval Office. This is ridiculous government overreach. Let people decide for themselves. Eric Doherty. We cannot allow Make America Healthy Again messaging to be used to force Americans into not buying certain things. Some officials in D.C. are working on trying to prevent Americans on SNAP from using those benefits to purchase any soda. Remember when New York City Democrats tried to prevent? Yep. Remember when Trump had a Diet Coke button? We get it. Let people decide for themselves. Ian Miles Strong, you get the idea. The same thing. They were all posting basically the same message. Now, this is the crazy thing. This basically exposes, let me see, do I have the, where is that silly website? Let me pull, I thought I had it pulled up. It's a website, no, I must have closed it. Let's see, here we go. Influenceable. This is the website that says unlock the power of influence. We have this story from Texas Tribune going back to 2023. And it references, in late June, about a dozen conservative Gen Z influencers converged on Fort Worth for a few days of right-wing networking. They go on to mention the event was sponsored by a fledgling company, Influenceable LLC, that recruits young conservative social media figures to promote political campaigns and films without disclosing their business relationship. That's illegal, by the way. On its website, the company touts itself as the world's largest network of digital activists and offers clients the power to cultivate a community of influencers to leverage their credibility. So here we have it. Let's see what happens when I go for influencers. Let's sign up. Get paid for being yourself. I'd like to get paid for being myself. Wait, what happened? Oops. Uh-oh. We're sorry. The form is no longer here. Gee, did maybe something happen recently where they started removing their influencer sign-up page? So we did get a response from Chad Prather, who says, I'm a comedian, I'm a conservative, I'm a man that makes mistakes. I love the values that I share with many of you. I'm often asked to share things. He says that he was I didn't take a payment for sharing it. have had a large following for years, etc. Eric Doherty says, that was dumb of me, massive egg on my face. In all seriousness, it won't happen again. I don't think it matters. We got ourselves here a conundrum, boys. If we're looking at what I describe as Donald Trump in a wartime presidency, they tried to put him in prison. They arrested his lawyers. There were 2 assassination attempts. This is some degree of conflict. There is warfare afoot. We are not in a civil war. I'm not saying that. But Donald Trump needs to go after these corrupt individuals. They need to be indicted. They need to be arrested. Where are we at on this one? Because I'm conflicted, as I often am. I find this scummy. Promoting sugary beverages to welfare recipients? That's what you're doing? You're not even promoting Vote MAGA. You're saying, no, maha bad, everyone go buy sodas. Yeah. At the same time, this conservative influence network that pays people to post, this coordinated messaging is a counter to what Democrats have already been doing for decades. And if we don't counter their machine, we lose.
I get that. I don't like when the left does it, and I also don't like when the right does it. It's just gross to me. These guys selling soda reminded me of Colbert dancing with vaccines on late night TV. There's just something gross to it.
I agree.
Do you remember like a week ago? I know we're in a time warp when Cory Booker and all of those Democrats put out that same exact video with the same exact script on Trump shutting down the government or something like that.
That ain't true.
Yeah. That's that one. I'm pretty sure a lot of these same folks made fun of that, only to fall into that exact same scheme. A week later. I'm all for high levels of potentially even paid coordination on the right in order to make sure that conservatives win the day, right? The difference between right and left is that the left actually gets all their money from USAID on this stuff.
Used to.
Used to. And so I want to see that level of coordination. What I don't want to see is a level of coordination that brings people into the tent that shouldn't be there. Namely, these massive food corporations, these massive oligopolies that have no interest at all in advancing the America First agenda, right? Like they shouldn't be in the camp. I'm totally fine with paying people to engage with the public on issues that actually move the ball forward for MAGA. I don't think this issue moves the ball forward for
It's just
MAGA
once you know someone's for sale, how do you trust anything that ever comes out of their mouth again?
Right. These individuals who are, you've got, for example, Ian Miles Chong, you've got Eric Doherty, you've got Clown World, you've got Chad Prather, and they're not the only ones. They're just the ones that are getting dragged on this the most. These are people, guys, with all due respect, I know some people have apologized to some degree. You know, Chad said, he said, I didn't get paid for this. So if that's true that he didn't get paid for this, then fine. I actually don't see him in the list of these things, so I'm wondering what he posted specifically. But Eric Doherty saying that was dumb of me. You guys were posting ads without disclosing they were paid ads. That's illegal, right? So this goes back to 2016. The Kardashians got in trouble. The FTC will go after you. They say that a watchdog group found over 100 posts from the Kardashians that were not marked as paid advertising. When we do videos on YouTube, we're required to select a box saying this video includes paid promotion. Yeah. When we put so I said this earlier, I don't sell direct tweets, but we do tweet things that we do take sponsorships for. So when we've done events, we've had the sponsors say, we'll sponsor your event, but we want you to tweet about it. And I'll say, okay. And then we'll put powered by or sponsored by. Mm-hmm. I like to use sponsored by, or we'll outright put hashtag ad in it. What? You're legally required to do so. I've even deleted posts when they were improperly posted, and we can't do that. Sponsorships are totally fine. The problem is they're not disclosing it. So how many other posts do they have? How many other posts, guys? You're saying, oops, my bad. Yeah, how many of your tweets, your X posts are paid for that you didn't disclose? Look, the challenge here is, will the Trump administration actually pressure the FTC to go after conservative influencers who like Donald Trump? Probably not. Right? That's the reality of it.
Should, though. I think everyone, if you do something bad like this, and you should go after it.
I think these people should go and delete every single paid promo tweet they have.
Not even, yes, but also tell us which ones they are.
Right.
Like, be super open about it. You know, this is all the ones I've done. I'm deleting them now, and we can move on from there.
I can't follow these people.
Oh, no, I don't follow any of these people. Maybe Chad is the only one I follow.
Their political opinions are for sale.
You deal with this way more than I do, of course. When are there different rules of the road for political opinions versus products, right? Because I think the soda thing, it's like
it's substantially
it's-
more highly regulated,
Yeah.
and you start getting into very serious electioneering stuff. So, for instance, when you want to buy ads on any platform, they have specific restrictions on social and political influence versus products.
Mm-hmm.
So Instagram's a good example. Let me see what I got going on over on the old Instagram here.
Oh boy.
So we do marketing, same as anybody else. And on Instagram, here's a good example. I have a video that let's see if I can find one. Actually, I'll just put it this way. I would say 99% of the videos I post cannot be promoted on Instagram. Anything pertaining to a social issue of political consequence will be rejected outright. So the few promos that I've done on Instagram, the one that I can pull up is the pogo stick over the Cybertruck. We did a boost on that one. And so the visible views you can see are separate from the views you get from advertising. On Instagram, if you do a promotion, it will not publicly display any of the views you get from the promotion.
And if you do a pogo stick over a Cybertruck, you deserve to have
Front flip.
views. Front flip?
Front flip. Pogo stick front flip.
You have to show me this.
crazy
after.
video.
So
That's
it's I got 547,734 views on it. And then I ran it as an ad because it was doing so well and got an additional 179,773. That's the kind of stuff that I can promote. It's a pogo stick. Every time I try to promote my Instagram, anything at all, it gets rejected as a political ad. Mm-hmm. YouTube is the same. There are heavy restrictions on political advertising. So I think the reason they don't disclose it is because they're bordering on very serious, like, ethical dilemmas in what they're allowed to spend and how they're allowed to do it. I can't say I know for sure because a lot of these are generic, but it gets called into question when they're not advocating for a politician. They're not advocating for a specific bill or anything. It's like any other commercial you'd see on TV where they're like, oppose the pill ban.
Right.
Don't call your member of Congress today. Like, you're allowed to do that.
They're paid to be bots. It's like dead internet theory, but with real people and paid for ideas, right?
I think it's scummy.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, it should be clear when it comes to at least topics like this that are totally flying in the face of all the things that the right has been going on about. First of all, the right doesn't like, social programs like SNAP generally.
Yeah.
Some people will say, okay, we need them, but for the most part, you'd think the right would be able to agree. Yeah, for things like soda and stuff like that, we should say you can't get that kind of stuff. It should be for necessities, for basics and stuff. Right. And then, so there is the argument, oh, well, the government shouldn't be telling you what to do with your money, which is what the argument that they're making. But this is, clearly that's an
With
error
my
in
money,
the
you mean?
premise. Exactly. It's an error in the premise because it's not their money. So anytime the government gives you anything, everyone knows there's strings attached, whether it be money to states or money to individuals. There are strings attached for everything. Yep. And then obviously the fact that it goes up, goes after it flies in the face of the Maha movement and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It's just all ridiculous. And it was clearly a terrible idea for anyone to do this. And yeah, no one should trust any of the people that are posting those.
Apparently they were promoting Sound of Freedom too.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I like that movie. And so I'm fine with that. The only problem I have is they didn't disclose that it was an ad.
Yeah.
Bro, like, I don't get it. Who cares? I don't sell tweets. So the only times we've done it is, like I mentioned, someone sponsored IRL for an event or show and then asked us to tweet out the show link. And I said, I've explicitly told all the sponsors, we will not tweet out anything that's like, buy this product from this company. We will, however, tweet today's episode is this, sponsored by this company. That's totally fine.
Yep.
But I don't know, man.
Bad news, man.
Political opinions for sale. What?
Well, you that's the thing is you can't trust these people now. And unfortunately, like these people have like such broad reach that it's like, well, okay, now, the fact that you have broad reach, now that's a liability. Mm-hmm. Instead of, an asset to the goals that people on the right have. It's like, oh, well, okay, everyone is going to look at you and be like, well, you can't trust anything they say. And then you're literally discrediting things that are true, that could be true that you can.
And you don't even have to, I'm sorry, we want to move on here?
Yeah, let's jump to this next story. We got this from the Daily Beast. MAGA fooled by official RFK Jr. plan to ban pharma ads on TV. A post on X announced the Health and Human Services Secretary's plan to ban the ads, but no such plan exists. I don't believe you, Corbin Bowles. Is that how you say his name? I'll tell you why. So it was Unusual Whales, which is not some random garbage user account. This is like they get stories, man. Allies and adversaries of RFK Jr. alike were elated when the next post on Monday claimed that Health and Human Services Secretary planned to ban pharmaceutical ads from television. But Kennedy made no such announcement, and no such plan exists. Breaking, RFK Jr. has announced plans to ban pharmaceutical advertisements on television, wrote Unusual Whales early Monday. Unusual Whales is a service that provides data on unusual stock trading activity. Politicians and media personalities circulated the news, most of whom praised Kennedy for acting on this long-stated desire to bar such ads from the airwaves. Great idea, Hawley wrote. Huge conspiracy theorist Naomi Wolf chimed in. What about podcasts? MAGA podcaster Tim Pool mused. Interesting. I think most of us in the public health would support this. Dr. Ashish Jha, former President Joe Biden's COVID-19 response coordinator, wrote, though he noted the court challenges have impeded such efforts in the past. Indeed, it's the First Amendment. So they've put restrictions on pharmaceutical ads, but they can't block them because people have this right to speak up. But Liz Wheeler breaks down exactly why this would be tremendous. The corporate media will fail. You will watch before your very eyes as highly paid MSM anchors are fired, networks panic, and some shut down. Paychecks aren't paid. The entire business of mainstream media is a fake business, artificially propped up by massive ad dollars from pharma ads. Guys, I watch Fox News all day. It's nothing but drug commercials.
Right into my veins.
Yeah, I know. Is it America and New Zealand are the only places that have pharmaceutical ads on TV?
I gotta say though, Vanda Pharmaceuticals, you have the best commercials ever. There's the one where all electricity shuts down in Paris, and this woman runs. For some reason, some random blonde woman is running full speed through Paris, climbs a tower, and then turns on all of Paris' electricity with a single lever. I don't know why Paris has that kind of switch that can disable the entire city.
So easy.
But while she's frantically running to restore the power, they're talking about a drug that might kill you. Then there's the other one for Fanapt. I just love this commercial, dude. It's for bipolar 1 disorder. You see, look what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But the commercial's so good.
You weren't paid for this, right?
No, I wasn't. But I love the commercials because as the woman is trying to figure out how to lock the door to her store, it's telling you that the drug kills you. Yeah. It's like this German woman being like, Fanapt increases the QT interval, which is associated with heart arrhythmia and sudden death. And I'm just like, wow. Like, that's an advertisement.
There's a reason SNL used to make fun of those commercials in the 90s. And the commercials haven't changed.
So in all seriousness, I think all pharmaceutical ads should be banned, gone, none. If it's a prescription drug, you shouldn't be able to run those ads on TV. What do you guys think?
I love the idea, if only because it will destroy the mainstream media.
Yeah. I'm fine with it. I think all those drugs are poison and they should go.
One thing that really, just shows the cards of the mainstream media on this issue. It's like they're instantly bringing up First Amendment protestations on this. Listen, I think everyone on this show loves the First Amendment. As one Australian politician recently put it, the reason we have these laws is because we don't have a First Amendment like they do in the United States.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother. We do have that. You're not coming after my speech. This isn't speech. Why is it then that there are restrictions on tobacco and other types of advertisements, and yet pharmaceuticals get to claim this special First Amendment privilege when that wasn't extended to other types of advertisements? It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. This is not at all what the First Amendment is designed.
A few years ago, I saw an interview with I think it was the CEO of Clearview AI, it's that facial recognition app, and he was saying that it was their First Amendment right as a corporation to collect all the faces off the internet, put in their database.
What?
Yeah. And this is kind of a similar thing. It's like the corporations they have personhood. We're going to give them our rights.
It is a challenge, First Amendment wise, but I do, this is why I keep going back to this wartime presidency, because my views have changed quite a bit. I keep bringing this up today because it's top of mind, but I sat down with Konstantin Kaisin over at Trigonometry. I was on the Trigonometry podcast. It's going to come up I don't know when they're uploading the episode, but I really do recommend you guys watch the full thing. But one point he asked me when I said, Donald Trump should use the powers needed to preserve the union and stop the corruption. And he asked me the very basic question everybody asks, and I think is very naive. But I'm not saying he's naive. I'm saying it's a good question. But the response from most people is naive. Is what happens when Democrats take control and then use those powers against you?
They already do.
My response is it doesn't matter what powers they use. Any leader who gets in and enforces amoral degeneracy, I have a problem with. And so no matter what we say we want today, it actually doesn't matter what the limit of the powers are. It matters the moral worldview of the individual enforcing the rules. The example that I give is we ask the question, should parents have the final say in the healthcare decisions of their children? Yes or no?
Yes.
Unless they're going to abuse them.
And there's the problem. So your answer is no. The answer is
because
outright
it does
no.
come to a part where the parent's idea of care actually is real life abuse.
So you have two scenarios. In Florida, the parents say, we want our children to be trans. Should the parents have the final say?
No, because the trans isn't real.
Okay, so
good answer.
Okay, now in California, the parents say, we don't think trans is real, so we do not want this for our kids. Should the state intervene?
No, the parents should get out of the state. I mean, look,
That's not what I asked. And the point I'm bringing this up is, when it comes to the banning of pharmaceutical ads, I literally don't care about your but my morals question. If we ban the speech today, Democrats will come and do something tomorrow. Understand this. If we had an amendment to the Constitution, the 20th Amendment said, all parents will get the final say as to the medical decisions of their children. The end result would be waves of parents giving their children sex changes without our ability to intervene. So do we want that principle enshrined in law? And when we're saying this, we're saying kids shouldn't be forced to take drugs when the parents are saying no. The state shouldn't be allowed to take the kids from the parents. Schools shouldn't be allowed to cover this stuff up. We're, of course, not saying that parents should be allowed to abuse their children. The issue is we want that enshrined in law. But as soon as a Democrat gets in, they reinterpret the principle and apply it in the other direction.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what we say. So if we were to say right now, this is not free speech to sell prescription drugs to people that could kill them and mess them up, and it destroys this country. Free speech is the expressing of political ideas that we want, not selling products. Then, of course, we say, of course, I'm not talking about selling a sandwich. Then what happens? Democrat gets in, ban sandwiches. A really great example is in New York, they banned public drinking. And the city councilman that passed it at the time, they were concerned about homeless vagrants getting drunk. And the exact quote when they were passing this provision was, let it not be said that a man can't enjoy a beer with his lunch. That is not what this legislation does.
doesn't matter.
Today, in New York, you cannot enjoy a beer with your lunch. That they banned this back before there was drinking and driving. People used to drink and drive, I think, in the 70s or something, like 60s?
60s probably.
So my point is simply this. Everybody keeps playing this game of we must be principled. And I'm like, bro, nobody has any agreement on what those principles are anymore. Being principled applies to a country with social cohesion. If everybody shares a moral worldview, we remain principled because we're saying don't be corrupt. But if you come to me and say, but Tim, if you say that Trump should arrest the corrupt politicians, Democrats will get in and do it too. And I'm like, actually, it's the other way around.
Yeah, I think you're
Democrats did this, and now Trump should too.
I think you're pointing out there's been an inversion for a long time on the right about how these principles actually work with one another. What you're pointing to is like, and the complaint about abusive parents, right? In the case of abusive parents, whether that's sex changes or physical abuse or whatever. If a second order principle is not in service of a higher principle, which is our view of there are things that are morally right and things that are morally wrong. If someone has hijacked that, then that principle is no longer in service of the common good. I go back to Aquinas and what he says about what law is. Law has to be in service of the common good.
Yeah.
If it's not in service of the common good, then you are free to politically, prudently reject that law. These aren't, the left and their efforts to, trans the kids. There's no way that can be interpreted as some sort of positive moral good in a world where there is any sort of rational world where we can determine what is right, what is wrong, what is black, what is white, etc. I think you're absolutely right on this. Like, this wartime presidency thing is actually a recovery of higher values in our politics that have been completely destroyed because people latched on to these secondary principles, right? Wanting to have a say over your child's education or over your child's well-being, and made that the entire ballgame. When, like, actually we need to get back to the most basic stuff, which is, no, everybody, there is a right and a wrong. The world was created by God. He has a plan for you, right? Like, you have to get back to that.
So here's where we are.
Totally agree.
There was a time when this country was morally cohesive. We had a dominant moral worldview. It was based on Christian moral ethics. Whether atheists want to accept it or not, it's actually a fact. You can disregard it. That's what you get with wokeness and liberalism today. In this period, we believe in free speech. Can you guys tell me one time this country has ever actually believed in free speech? Because the answer is it never has.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to drag this country, the United States, it's a great country, but when they actually ratified the Bill of Rights, blasphemy was still illegal. You can go to small towns and they'd string you up, they'd kick you out, they'd criminally charge you for obscenities. Speaking obscenities in public was illegal even in the 1970s. In fact, the Second Amendment, when was that ever protected? We argue about the NFA. Please, you couldn't carry a gun on your person until 2008 with DC versus Heller. So we like to look at the Constitution, and I will say this. We have been winning tremendously over a long period of time towards those goals in the Bill of Rights. But the Founding Fathers never intended for any of them to be applied this way. Because, like, I'll say it again. You go back to the Founding Fathers, stand up in one of their congressional congresses and start cussing and blaspheming, and they'd have you arrested. And they'd say, we're not talking about the free speech to do that. We're talking about the right peaceably assemble meant that individuals could gather in a room and hold a Continental Congress of the king coming and shutting it down. My point ultimately is this. When our country is morally unified, we think we're operating under these principles. But the truth is, the moment someone speaks out something nasty, we throw them under the bus. To be fair, in the past 30 years, you could say the most important things in the world, you wouldn't get thrown in prison for it. You go out and do Nazi stuff, you won't go to prison for it. And that's the important point. But that's still a recent development. Today, my point is simply this. There is no moral cohesion in this country. The woke think being mean to people is violence and will enforce that law against you. They argue that incitement to violence is not free speech. The right then agrees. They then say, and disparaging a group and calling them evil monsters is inciting people to attack them. We then disagree. Doesn't matter. You will get a judge who will bang the gavel and say, of course, if you demonize a whole group of people, people will attack them. And so your principle of free speech is meaningless in the context of your morals. Let's jump to this story, which actually brings us deeper into this problem. Judge contends Nazis got more due process than Trump deportees did.
Don't care.
Really? And that's the answer I was looking for, Phil.
Don't care.
Who cares? Donald Trump's trying to deport Tren de Aragua. There's apparently arguments that there's a gay Venezuelan barber asylum seeker who's been wrapped up in this and sent to a supermax in El Salvador, which is terrifying. Well, first thing I got to say is, why did you try to exploit my country and lie to get in here? Because if you're from Venezuela, Mexico is right there and you're safe. So I think he's a liar who committed a crime against this country. I don't think he deserves to go to Supermax. But at the same time, am I really going to come out right now and argue that Donald Trump should not use the fullest extent of his powers to undo the damage that Biden caused?
Joe Biden's fault. Joe Biden allowed millions of people to come into this country illegally. Now we have to get rid of them. And that means that the chances of people that are not here illegally or that are not criminals or whatever, they're going to get wrapped up too. And hopefully we can fix it after the fact and that they don't have too much actual like irreparable damage or whatever or repercussions that can't be remedied. But there are going to be errors when you're trying to remove millions of people. And I'm sorry that that's going to happen, but that's going to happen. And you can't avoid it. We are fallible humans. If you want to blame someone, blame Joe Biden and blame Democrats who have been pro illegal immigration for at least 10 years.
And they lost 300,000 children.
Yeah.
I will say, a gay barber that gets caught up in an El Salvadorian supermax prison sounds like a fantastic premise for a great comedy
Dude,
movie.
it's like Barry. It's like, have you watched Barry?
I haven't seen this
Bill
about
Hader's show. It's
about
amazing.
the serial killer, right?
He's like a murderer. It's crazy.
Okay, yeah.
Bill Hader's, it's amazing, but there's a character just like that.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the point you were just making about, lamenting, oh, well, if we do this, then Democrats will eventually use that against us. Well, I think people are undercounting the knock-on effects that wielding this type of political power has, right? Like, Democrats did all of these things in the Joe Biden administration, dating back to, you want to stretch it back to FDR or Woodrow Wilson or whatever, right? They were not concerned with what the right was going to do when the right got power. That wasn't a worry for them. Why? Because they knew if they exercised power in such a way, they could inculcate their interests and their people's, so that when we come in and we have a mandate like this on the right, breaking down that wall is proving really, really difficult. Yeah. Just ask the Trump administration legal team, who finds themselves involved in 132 different court cases, right? So this idea that power once wielded can be equally applied by the other side, I don't think that's true in the current system that we have. So it's smart for the Trump administration, as Tim was saying, to use as much power as possible to get back to those basics that we were talking about, right? Moral cohesion. To get back there,
So-
you need to destroy everything that they've built to inculcate their values.
Obviously,
Wartime,
right now, if one of the questions I had for the trigonometry guys is, if with all these terror attacks that are happening against Tesla facilities, and we've already seen the summer of riots, so we're in this period of conflict. If the legislature of a state voted to protect these far left groups from their own law enforcement and from federal law enforcement, should Trump intervene, invoke the Insurrection Act, and start enforcing the law federally through the National Guard?
I was hoping they were going to do that during the Black Lives Matter riots.
The summer of love.
Right. Yeah, like they didn't do it then, right?
If the states then vote to bar the National Guard entry into their state and physically obstruct them, should Trump order the politicians arrested for levying war against the United States, seditious conspiracy?
Yeah, probably. I mean, that is war.
I don't know that
I don't know it would be the politically prudent thing to do. Would Trump theoretically be within his rights to do it?
That's part of
in that situation? Probably.
So again, Abraham Lincoln had the Maryland legislature, portions of it arrested for being sympathetic to the Confederacy.
Mayor of Baltimore.
The mayor of Baltimore, too.
The grandson of Francis Scott Key as well, I think, was thrown in jail by Lincoln.
Suspended habeas corpus.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you guys this who are listening. You can comment. Do you think, and do you believe, two questions, that Abraham Lincoln was a despotic dictator, an evil man who was abusing his power? Do you believe that if you asked the average American that question, they would respond in the affirmative or the negative?
The average person would respond in the negative.
Right.
They would say he was a hero who did what he had to do to preserve the Union.
But he was a dictator.
And Donald Trump says he's like Abraham Lincoln.
Right. But I don't agree with what Lincoln did with suspending habeas corpus with those people, because they were just openly saying they were sympathizers of the Confederacy. Some of them didn't even do that.
The theory was that Abraham Lincoln didn't just arbitrarily be like, you know what, no habeas corpus for anybody. He said, we need safe passage between Pennsylvania and D.C. and Maryland as a slave state sympathetic to the Confederacy. Mm-hmm. We need to remove the Confederate sympathizers, and we need to create a passage for U.S. military and troops to move into D.C. without any obstruction. So the point of the suspension of habeas corpus was anyone who obstructed them would be arrested and removed immediately without question. Right. So they didn't, because they were at war.
Right.
We are not in a physical kinetic war right now. What we have is higher generational warfare to some degree, fifth, maybe sixth. We certainly have fourth. Fourth generational warfare is insurgency. Warfare does not mean you are at war with another nation or in a civil war or anything like that. So there's subterfuge, there's subversion. When I look at this story about the mass deportations, here's what I fear. Donald Trump should not be rounding up innocent people. I hope that doesn't happen. As much as people might sympathize on the left with this gay barber, one thing remains clear. He criminally entered this country to commit fraud against the United States. Mm-hmm. Now, if we get a story of an American citizen who was sent to a supermax in El Salvador, then I will go to the White House personally. I will text everyone I can and be like, get that citizen back here.
Yep.
When Donald Trump joked that the Tesla terrorists could maybe spend 20 years in a supermax in El Salvador, that's messed up. I say no to that. I think he's half joking, but I'm not going to tolerate any kind of we're going to ship American citizens to a foreign country's supermax prison. No way. Far leftist wingnuts get due process, and that due process is the right to a trial, because if you don't give them that, you don't get it either. Now, as for these non-citizens, this gay barber asylum seeker, you want me to feel sorry for this guy? The guy who illegally entered our country, lied to us so that he could come here, break our laws? Listen, I don't want him in a supermax prison. I get it. But the left is going, oh no, the poor gay barber, quick, burn the Constitution? Sorry, not happening. You do not illegally enter this country and take advantage of the American people and then expect me to come out and defend you the way I would an American citizen or a legal resident who did everything right. That being said, Mahmoud Khalil, he's on a 2-year temporary green card. They act like he's a permanent resident. That's a technicality because he is on a green card, but it's a temporary, it's a conditional. And he helped organize violent protests where they took over buildings and threatened workers, and there was violence against students. Sorry, you get your visa revoked for that.
See ya.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. That type of crime, no tolerance for it. No tolerance for it at all. And the crazy thing about what we see on college campuses right now on the left is all of those people who work in those buildings asked for it for so long. This is the type of academic environment they wanted to inculcate, right? They wanted to create this activist class that was either going to dole out USAID dollars or receive USAID dollars. And to see the, I don't know, the brain rot finally come for their own institutions. There's something very gratifying about it. At the same time, I really, like, a lot of these administrations on these college campuses are doubling down on these DEI policies or on this
Changing
type of
names so that way they
changing
can
names.
Did Columbia
right.
cave today for the 400 million?
I don't know. Did they?
It was some New York college. I think it was Columbia that caved to get the 400 mil.
The point, if they did, that's a win, because I see this window, right? The campus Hamas Israel protests creating a window for the right to actually act vigorously against these academic institutions, and to see Trump come out and be so vigorous against them in the first 2 months has been wonderful to see. But you need something to like blow that wide open. And I think that's why the speech issue paired with leveraging federal funds is the perfect way to do this. Because if they don't, I mean, you just have to bring these institutions to heel. Like this is the wartime presidency in a certain respect. It's this weird balance.
Yeah.
I got bad news for everybody. I think that we're going to be moving towards the left propaganda campaign we predicted. Photos and videos of people being loaded on trains, buses, or whatever. They're going to say Trump is Hitler. It's Hitler 2.0. Here we go. There's nothing you can do. We've got, on the low end, an estimated 10 million people who illegally entered this country, and that doesn't include the people who are legally allowed to enter under Joe Biden's special programs, like the 530,000 Haitians, Cubans, and et cetera, and Venezuelans. They were allowed to legally enter. These people didn't come here illegally. They were told if they had a sponsor here, they could come. Trump's terminating 500,000 legal statuses, immigrant legal statuses. Now that's tough. These are people who didn't break the law. They were told by Joe Biden, come on down. It's fine. It's legal. But this was still an attack on the American people, seeking to flood the zone in liberal jurisdictions to boost their electoral vote count. This is the game that Democrats have been playing. Trump will reverse this. Otherwise, the country is doomed. Yep. There will be a response from the left in some capacity, and you are going to get these narratives. Trump is a despot who's rounding up. The game they're playing right now is the gay barber is innocent. That's what they're saying. They're saying this gay barber is innocent. He was an asylum seeker, and Trump accused him of being Tren de Aragua, sent him to Supermax. My response is, that's propaganda. He entered the country illegally. End of story. Asylum seeker means he entered illegally. Because if he didn't, then he wouldn't be an asylum seeker. He'd be a visa holder. He'd be a green card holder. He came from Venezuela, bypassing every country in between where he could have been safe, came to the United States for economic reasons, most likely, breaking our laws, and in the sweep, he gets deported. Now, I've heard two conflicting reports. One says he's still currently in U.S. detention, or in U.S. controlled detention awaiting some kind of hearing. Others have said he's already in Venezuela. But this is not an American citizen who is innocent. This is a man who committed a crime for which the due process is, sir, are you a citizen? No. Goodbye.
Mm-hmm. When they start pumping out that propaganda with the people on trucks getting pushed out, just all our friends out there just keep saying, I voted for this. We got to push through it, but the crazy people are going to get crazier. I'm watching people out there. They're unhinged, like leftists. They're crazier now, or just as crazy as they were during the Summer of Love.
Indeed.
It seems like we're back to it.
Let's talk about what's going on with Tesla. We have the story from The Guardian. Incendiary devices found at Texas Tesla dealership amid growing protests. The Trump administration has pledged to crack down on vandalism and protest against Elon Musk's car company. So this is in Austin. They found what are incendiary bombs at these dealerships. The bomb squad was deployed. Just another story, another day where we're getting this far left terror. Now, over the weekend, I took my Cybertruck to D.C. and I drove it around Martinsburg, West Virginia. And so on our way to D.C., a woman in a blue car, we're auto driving. So the Cybertruck is just in the middle of the like in its lane perfectly, driving on the highway. The driver is sitting there with his hands at his lap, looking down the road. That's what you do when it's auto driving. This lady gets right on the line of her lane and is super close to the truck. Like I could have touched her car. I could have just like put my hand out. And she's looking she's looking left, not looking forward, staring at us in the car. And one of my buddies in the car was like, yo, this lady's like getting up on us and she's staring at us. This is weird. And she held that for a couple of minutes. And I'm thinking, maybe it's just a bad driver, right? We get to DC. And as we were pulling into a charging station, some lady points at us and the guy who's with her spits at us. We had, so that was it. I mean, maybe it's nothing, right? In Martinsburg, West Virginia, we had a woman roll her window down and start screaming at the top of her lungs at us. Just like screaming with her kid in the car. And then the other thing was I pulled up. I was at a stop sign and a guy pulled up, looked at me, and then just gave a thumbs down like that. And then I just gave him a salute and he took off. That's all I really experienced. I tweeted that and it got retweeted like crazy. I guess the reason it matters, as much as I was kind of like, yo, I don't really care. There was an unease. You don't know who's going to walk up and throw something at your car or who's going to, we're seeing all these videos of violence and vandalism. Most people don't realize it's 100 times worse than that. The videos you see of the violence, probably 1% of what's actually going on. Yep. There's a bunch of videos where people are hitting the cars, denting the cars, kicking the cars, keying the cars. But you're not hearing from the people who aren't in Sentry mode. Sentry mode is when the car records everything around it. Most people aren't using that. They don't think they need it, right? So their cars are getting damaged. I got to tell you, I drive that truck around and you can see it. These people are freaking out. Yeah. Now, one last thing on this. A middle-class guy, liberal, 2 years ago, buys a Tesla for $30,000. He finances it. So he puts $5,000 down. He still owes $26,000 because there's fees. He's like, I did what the left wanted me to do. I bought an electric car. 2 years later, they're destroying it. They're keying it. So now he's got a dented fender. He's got it keyed left and right. And he says, I can't sell it because they damaged it. And if I try to sell it now, I can sell it for $10,000 and I'm underwater $16,000 in debt. What do I do? That is the evil of the left and the world they've built for you.
Yep. I always thought it was going to be the child slaves in the cobalt mines attacking Teslas. Turns out
they're too far away.
Turns out, in fact, it was the climate change activist.
Thank God it was coming back.
It's funny that you mentioned that you've had this experience, and I think that it's probably due to the fact that you were driving around in the Cybertruck, because I own a Tesla, and I actually went to DC this weekend myself. Not a dirty look. Well, I mean, me and Sarah went to look at to see the cherry blossom.
Yeah, but you also kind of have a don't F with me look.
I mean, look, man, I'm not some tough guy or whatever, and I'm there with my girlfriend and stuff, and it's like, I do drive a black S, so it's not like some kind of like, it doesn't stick out the same way that a Cybertruck does, and I think that that's probably why, people took notice of Tim, is because of the vehicle itself.
I think maybe tomorrow I'm going to send out a film crew and one of our armed guards just to park the vehicle and like just I hate to say we're going to have an armed guard. There's no intention for violence. We want to interview the people who actually try to come up and engage the vehicle or do whatever they would do with it. The moment they come near it, we'll have the cameras come around the corner and just be like, what are you doing and why are you doing it? So I can hear what these people have to say.
It's like To Catch a Predator.
Right, exactly.
But for Cybertrucks.
But for Cybertrucks.
Yeah.
And then, try and have them respond and be like, most people who bought these vehicles did it apolitically.
Yeah.
They're not buying them because they're like, woo, Elon.
You should if you want to do this, you should try to do it near a federal building where a lot of federal workers work.
Oh boy.
And see if it's federal workers who come after.
Well, I don't know. We've got a couple universities around here,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
That would be
But it's hard to know. I mean,
Liberty University, they just like give it a hug. No.
people don't get this, but you think West Virginia is like this big red state. It is, but every city is blue. Everywhere. Yep. So when you go to Martinsburg, West Virginia, there's Progress Pride flags everywhere.
Yep.
And this is one of the concerns the locals were telling us when we were trying to set up shop there, which we are not anymore because of the far left extremism and the vandalism, the violence. But it's unfortunate because the local businesses said these woke people from Frederick and from parts of Maryland are coming here because the rent is cheap. And they're bringing that influence with them. Mm-hmm. Now it's infecting their city, and what can you do?
Yeah. I wonder what the environmental impact is on destroying a Tesla. That's a big question for me. I also think of I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the heat map for liberal psychology and conservative psychology, whereas it's a circle, and it's like a bullseye. And so the bullseye is if you have the strongest attachment to your family, then your outer family, your close friends, peers, colleagues, blah, blah, blah. And it goes all the way out until the last rung of the bullseye is everything in existence. And the conservative heat map is really concentrated on those first fundamental units of society. Your peers, your colleagues, your family, your friends, right? Really centralized. For the left, the heat map actually focuses on rung 13 or 14, which is all living things, including trees and plants. So it's this Brothers Karamazov problem where you can't love individual people or things or your community. You have to love everything in the abstract. And I feel like this is that.
It's a little bit
real life.
It's a little bit worse, actually. The researchers described it as inert objects. Democrats' heat center on that map centers around inert objects like trees and rocks. Rocks, literally. Wow. And to be fair, I care deeply about rocks.
Rocks are cool.
I see a rock formation that's thousands of years old, like a big circle sitting on a little thing. Somebody wants to smash that up, I'm stopping them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no, don't you touch that rock. That's a cool rock.
I'm with you.
As for the gravel outside, I don't much care.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not particularly fond of gravel either myself.
Yeah, gravel's bad.
But that's what this is, right?
Yeah.
It manifests in your community, which is these people don't actually care that they're destroying your Teslas. They're so fixated on loving, the government or loving America in the abstract that they don't actually know or understand or have any sense of what it actually is, right? Because they've decided that America is this amorphous thing that I get to decide what it is at any point in time. And if that requires me destroying someone's Tesla or getting out in the streets during Summer of Love and burning down whole neighborhoods or not calling the police when I see a crime happen on the street or locking up Daniel Penny, any of those things are totally fit in to this psychological matrix that people have actually mapped now, and we get to see how deranged this movement actually is.
I just think it's a cult, and sometimes I watch some of these other podcasts sometimes, and I know that many of these other prominent personalities are too scared to say what they know is true. Come on. There were 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump. We have no explanation for the first one.
No.
Jenna Ellis, Trump's lawyer, was charged with RICO simply for drafting a letter for the president. She didn't do anything. I think it was it might have been Minnesota, Wisconsin. They went after Trump's lawyers as well. The moment Democrats in government tried to arrest Trump's lawyers for simply representing him, it was apparent that we were in some kind of fight between warring factions in the government for control of that government.
I would say even earlier, right? When Obama's wiretapping Trump's campaign.
Absolutely.
Right?
And It's fascinating to me when I ask people about this and they refuse to answer the question. I am not saying anything. It's like, this is not an opinion statement. It is a fact question. Did they try to arrest Trump's lawyers? Yes or no? The answer is yes. Okay, yes, it's a fact. They literally did arrest his lawyers. They didn't try to. They literally did. They indicted and arrested. Okay. Is that unconstitutional? Yes, it literally is. Okay. So have Democrats unconstitutionally targeted the president with criminal indictments, threats of property seizure, targeting of his assets, resources, family, and lawyers? Yes, all of that's true. Mm-hmm. What do you call that? It's an honest question. There's no gotcha. There's no trick question. I don't know. How would you describe a state of government where one political faction has violated the supreme law of the land, that's the Constitution, to destroy their political opponent?
Yeah. I mean,
Banana Republic, a despotism.
It'd be like Banana Republic or something like that. Because that's the type of thing that you expect to hear from
with those things.
Countries and stuff.
Those things are facts, and I want to make sure I do this because for a lot of people who don't know, here you go. Jenna Ellis becomes latest Trump lawyer to plead guilty over efforts to overturn Georgia's election, crying in court. Pleading guilty. I think the argument was that it would be overturned or whatever. This is October 24th, 2023. It's a fact. They've arrested more than one of Trump's lawyers. Well, that's unconstitutional. The right to due process and legal representation is enshrined in our Bill of Rights, in our Constitution. They did it. We know they did. Okay. This is an administrative level. They also tried to seize his assets in New York City. Even though Deutsche Bank, Trump's creditors, his lenders, argued that he made them money, he never deceived them, and they would like to work with him again, they still found him liable of civil fraud. Now, with these things being true, the question then is, what should a now Trump administration do in response to what they did to him?
You got to go full force.
Yeah.
Shatter.
Not a trick question.
The whole system.
Honest question. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know about these exactly, but I always think about how I want Nuremberg trials for all the COVID stuff.
So I ask these questions to other personalities, and they are terrified to actually engage in this conversation.
Why?
Because they know what the end result of all of this is going to be. Life is not going to be fun at all. It's going to be scary.
They shut the world down already.
But it's I know. And people have always hoped they can just lay on the floor and the mob will pass their house by. Mm-hmm. You're right. They already took your life away. And they're hoping and begging it doesn't happen again. Okay. If Donald Trump does not criminally charge, indict, investigate, if Dan Bongino and Kash Patel do not go after these individuals who violated the Constitution, targeting their political opponent, you have no country.
Totally.
If they are allowed to do these things without repercussion, there was the lawyer who altered an email so Carter Page would go to jail. Remember that? Yep. Falsifying evidence.
Yeah.
The fake impeachments, the censorship. The only rational conclusion is, for anybody who knows the truth, Trump must investigate, indict, arrest, and charge politicians, attorneys general, district attorneys. You go to one of these run-of-the-mill woke light or fake centrist types, and you ask them these questions, they will abandon the conversation faster than you can say andale, yipa, yipa.
Yeah, I voted for accountability. I want, like, these people mutilated our society, and first they attacked us during lockdowns, forced people out of their jobs, destroyed families. We can go through the whole list, and then they went after Trump super hard. So I want accountability.
There's the meme that Trump puts out there, not after me, they're after you. I'm just in the way. There's a significant amount of truth to that. They're after the liberties that you have as an American, and the idea that now that the right is in power, they shouldn't try to, one, rectify the things that have been broken, and two, try to punish those people that actually did the breaking. Right. That's absurd. Yep. The right is in power. They should use every means at their disposal to rectify the problems that were caused by the Democrats and punish the people that did it.
And their neocon friends as well.
Of course. Yeah.
I think.
So what happens if Donald Trump then So some of the late, actually, you know what? I should pull this one up. We didn't have it. We didn't have the story pulled up, but I do think we'll just grab it. I don't want to use Reuters. Let's use New York Post.
Well, there we go.
Let's jump to this story from the New York Post. Trump revokes security clearance for Joe Biden, entire family, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, and other political foes.
I mean,
The viral claim here is that this is the precursor to investigation, indictment, and arrest.
yes, good.
They're removing their security clearance, so these individuals don't know the movements that are happening behind the scenes.
Biden did it to Trump.
Indeed.
Right.
And so, should Trump actually do this if these rumors are true?
Yes.
100%.
What do you think the left will say?
Freaking out. This is going to feed their confirmation bias that he's a crazy dictator.
And with them already firebombing Tesla dealerships
it's gonna
and
accelerate.
shooting cars,
It'll accelerate.
Yep.
It's going to get ugly. But it's been ugly.
this is the conversation I've tried having with many moderate individuals. They don't want to have it. They simply just say, no, I don't think so. And just answer the question, yes or no. Did they arrest Trump's lawyers? I'm just saying, I don't want to have this conversation because I figured you're a coward. That's why.
I want to highlight a piece written by Dr. Matthew Meehan in The American Mind about a roadmap to restore accountability in our government. And one thing that he mentions in this piece is the first thing that you can go after, and it's actually a relatively easy thing to go after rather than the types of high crimes that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris might be engaged in. Just go after perjury first. Like, just get those guys. Because we've seen it from Brennan, we've seen it from Clapper, we've seen it from all these guys in the past. I do think, though, like I have to convince myself on a daily basis to not be so gosh darn red meat about this issue, because I am no moderate on this. I think we should go full, like go all the way. Right? We need to hold these people accountable. At the same time, do you actually need, what's the type of I won't call it destruction. I'll call it creative destruction that you need over these types of individuals. Like, is justice served if there is a requisite amount of public knowledge and public destruction of these individuals and their crimes? So, like, can I make it impossible for Hillary Clinton to ever go get a stipend from
It's not enough
Goldman
for me.
Sachs?
I get it. I want them in jail.
Right. So you want definitely some of these people in jail, but it's like, how do you balance that in a way so that we don't get into a situation where the entire country starts to fall apart? And so I've really been trying to think about what Dr. Meehan challenges people to think about. It's like proper political uses of clemency that can strengthen accountability, public trust, and the rule of law. And if we all sit around and realize that we're in a country that is impossible now,
I
don't even know how you can grapple with that.
I don't know if shaming those people like a Clinton will even
it's not just public shame. It is like the full trial procedure, etc. And
But is there a punishment?
And
If they're found guilty after a trial, is there a punishment?
I think you could use specific it would depends on the circumstance, right? So like for someone like Anthony Fauci, who is guilty of perjury and many other things, like jail.
Yeah, or space. We just shoot him, launch him into space.
Or he's gonna be the first guy on Mars.
That's right. He'll ruin Mars.
Yeah. Wear your masks on Mars. If you're talking about, I'm trying to figure out someone who'd be more apropos.
Like maybe like a governor from like a Whitmer or a Cuomo.
Maybe it's enough to go through this process, and then on the back end, Trump just being like, "I pardon you."
Right. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't want them pardoned. Those people are genocidal maniacs.
We know that the governors of several blue states put COVID patients in nursing homes, killing the elderly.
Against the CDC's, even the CDC said don't even do it, and they were like, nah.
For sure. No, I'm trying to figure out politically sustainable ways to hold these people accountable
While keeping the country.
That's not
keeping the country together.
But
Donald Trump did not start this.
Oh, I know he didn't start it.
So you're basically saying Trump needs to. There needs to be a way to be nice to people who initiated.
No, it's not. It's not necessarily nice. It's not necessarily nice. It is, and it's not meant to be nice to those people who have done the wrong. It is to figure out a way to structure our retribution, because our retribution is going to be success in a way that doesn't destroy the country. Because let me just be clear. I don't think Trump's going to destroy the country. Golden age, blah, 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 blah. But if these are the stakes, right, where like it's going to be Summer of Love is going to look like a sideshow if this thing really kicks off. And I think we really do have to think about this really critically.
Summer of Love will kick off. It's already starting. They've got on the 29th, the Tesla takedown.
Right. 500
locations, I think it is, or 500 events. Just today, we already covered the story. They found more bombs at a Tesla location in Austin. We've had more stories of violence and vandalism targeting private Tesla owners. There's a disabled woman who, she's in a wheelchair, and some guy, this is another viral video just went out, keyed her car totally. And she's like, I'm handicapped, and like, I bought an electric car for the environment. This is what happens to me.
That was terrible.
I do not see a circumstance where psychotic and deranged people simply stop. However, there is the argument that we're actually on the back end of this conflict with Trump winning. This is, how do people describe it? First Trump term is A New Hope. Biden term is Empire Strikes Back. And now we're in Return of the Jedi, Return of the Orange Man. Maybe Trump arrests these people. We see actual arrests of sitting politicians with indictments and publicly available evidence.
I'd love it.
And the left does lose their mind, but maybe their power is waning. Case in point, USAID is gutted and gone. Trump has fired all these federal prosecutors that were from Joe Biden. He's gutted the SDNY. The power structures used by the left to wage administrative warfare and NGO-based conflict have been shredded to pieces.
Right.
So maybe now, in a few months, there will not be the resources to create these.
Good point. Because he's robbed them of their narrative machine.
Not just that, their money.
In all the,
What did Lee Zeldin
right up the
find?
money.
$375 billion that was being allocated towards climate NGOs.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I part of me also feels like the country is destroyed. Even though we're living our lives as if it's not, like post lockdowns, things just never went back. They feel like maybe to people like it's normal, but we're not in like a good place. The economy is so bad. People are suffering so bad. You know, I don't think you just get over that.
Yeah, and I'm not some like moderate coward who thinks like everything's hunky
Yeah,
dory.
you're making that guy's point though, like from the American mind.
Yeah, and I think Dr. Meehan does raise a really important political point. Like, I want justice and clemency in that order, and that's the only way that I just don't know. I just don't know how the country doesn't go wrong way, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's any way it's going to go a good way.
Yeah,
you know, no matter what we do,
needs to happen though.
Oh yeah,
but again, I want to at least have there be a consideration of optimism in that we were talking about winning a culture war, and we all rallied and voted for Donald Trump and for the Republicans, and they've got the House, the Senate, and the executive branch right now, and they're actually using it. Is it perfect? No, but it's above and beyond my expectations.
Yeah.
If this continues forward, there may not be an NGO mechanism to create protests. The far left may end up getting arrested and rounded up in these protests, and they go to prison for a long time. And the Summer of Love may not actually, I think we're already in the emergence of it. It's springtime.
Right.
But I'm wondering if we end up with little to nothing because Trump has crushed their machines.
That would be in my opinion, that is the best case outcome. The best case outcome is if the narrative building machines that the left has used with the NGOs and the unlimited money that the federal government can produce and print up, and just so long as they can get the Congress to sign off on some omnibus bill, then they have almost unlimited money. That kind of, starving of the beast, starving of the monster, that might be something that actually prevents serious problems this summer. Like, they don't have the funding to have all the transporting people around. Like, I forget the name of the food truck that was going from DC, from Washington all over the country, the riot meals or whatever.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Wow, that was a while ago.
Yeah, I forget the name of it. But the point is, like, these things that were happening, they were funded, and a lot of it seems like it was coming through, whether it be USAID or funding to NGOs. If we can actually cut off that funding, if the Trump administration can actually cut off that funding, you might be able to get a real understanding of what the American people actually think, as opposed to what they're what they're led to believe because of NGOs and narrative building.
So let me just see if I get what Phil's saying real quick. So you're basically saying, I think you are saying a similar thing, Tim, is that this whole thing is one big self-fulfilling prophecy, and the administration's actions can destroy one of those events in the cycle.
Hopefully.
The events of the cycle is Biden goes after Trump. Trump does something about it. Left freaks out. Trump does something. And then, left decides to go after Trump again. So if we can destroy the left's outrage machine that you think disassembles the cycle, and you don't need to be so concerned with those types of political consequences that we were just
further than that, it might be that the reason the left has had such influence on society overall is because of the money that was being pumped in. So we might actually not have a representation of what people do actually think in this country because it's been skewed by leftist funding, leftist narrative building, and stuff like that. So if it's possible that they have actually, by breaking that cycle, you might have a new understanding of what the American people actually
real people
We've
get
got-
away. Oh, sorry.
We've got breaking news, my friends. I don't know if it's breaking, but I just saw it from 551. Governor Patrick Morrisey of West Virginia, has signed the ban on artificial food dyes and other chemicals in food. Starting January 1st, 2028, you cannot sell food in West Virginia if it contains one of 7 dyes and other fake garbage. This is epic. There were concerns that the governor was being pressured by major food lobbying groups saying the state will lose billions of dollars. In the end, he did the right thing and the difficult thing as a good leader, and he banned it. The New York Times says, in the most sweeping move of its kind, West Virginia has banned foods containing most artificial food dyes and 2 preservatives, citing their health risks. The legislation signed into law Monday by Governor Patrick Morrisey will go into effect in 2028. At least 20 states are considering similar restrictions on food chemicals. But West Virginia is the first to ban virtually all artificial dyes from foods sold statewide. Quote, everybody realizes that we've got to do something about food in general, said Adam Burkhammer, a Republican state rep who introduced the bill in February. It quickly passed both legislative houses with broad bipartisan support. Mr. Burkhammer said he hopes the law will improve the health of children in his state and spur other states to take similar actions. California has passed similar measures, though they were narrower in scope. One passed in 2023 banned 4 food additives statewide, and 2024 banned artificial food dyes from school meals. I just want to say this is incredibly epic. The economic opportunity for West Virginia knows no bounds at this point. And while I have my beef with the state over their ridiculous Uber laws, I think we can get that stuff reversed. This is massive. We discussed what this means already. Food tourism. If you're a mom living in suburban Maryland, maybe you're in Hagerstown or you're in Frederick, you are absolutely going to drive the 30 minutes to the supermarket in West Virginia where you know every single food item is going to be devoid of this garbage.
This is epic.
Food, people, look, if we're hanging out in the tri-state, Virginia, Maryland, West Virginia, and we want to go to a restaurant, you think I'm going to, you know what I can't stand? When we go to these diners, and Allison and I, my wife, we've gone around, none of them use real butter. You sit down and you're like, I would like pancakes. And they take the spray onto the pan. And I'm like, I don't want to eat that. And then they hand you hydrolyzed soy or whatever, hydrogenated vegetable oil to spread with salt in it. There are some places that give you little pads of butter, but you still know they're using weird aerosol cooking spray vegetable garbage. Yep. Now, that's not being banned, but if it's got the preservatives, some of these preservatives, it will be, and they're very common. More importantly, the food dyes are out. So we went to, they have a little farmer's market, and they've got licorice, and it's this farmhouse licorice. It's like local distribution, and it's got all the artificial dyes in it. Really? I think it might have even had the carmine color, the cochineal mite paste. Eat the bugs. Ugh. I'm stoked. I'm so stoked.
Shout out to Patrick Morrisey. On day 1 in office, he brought back religious exemptions for families. So kids cannot get all the vaccines if you don't want to have to do that. Even private schools in West Virginia are following the vaccine schedule.
He's actually neighbors We're neighbors.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, he lives in the area.
Nice.
To be fair, a lot of people live in this area because it's the Eastern Panhandle. It's close to D.C.
Yeah.
But they actually now, I think he's in Charleston, which is the capital.
Yeah.
So he probably has dual residency. But all of the locals around, they all know him, and they say he's fantastic.
Yeah.
When he won, people out here were like, they almost couldn't believe it because it was, remember when Obama was going to win, and there was that narrative that it was actual change? When Morrissey won and justice gets out, people were like, Morrissey's actually based.
Yeah.
And so he's held true to his word. I was concerned because when the legislature passed this, they had a veto-proof majority, so it's like, what are you going to do anyway? But I know the challenges when you are presented with all of these major food producers who are like, we generate billions in revenue in your state, and you are saying we can't sell this product anymore, we're going to leave. What does that mean for your schools, for your roads? What does that mean for your supermarkets? What are the costs going to turn into? Who's going to replace that? It's a very, very difficult decision. But I'm going to tell you now, if you're listening, the opportunity is endless. West Virginia's got 3 years, just shy of 3 years, to produce Fruit Loops without artificial dyes.
Mm-hmm.
The question then becomes, will Kellogg's Post and these other companies actually do it? They're going to go through a cost-benefit analysis. How much money are we going to lose if we don't sell in West Virginia? Is it $50 million a year? Who knows? Okay, how much will it cost to change and create a line of non-artificial food dye cereals? It's going to be expensive to create that whole line. Okay, how about changing it for the whole country? It might cost us $40-50 million to redo the recipe and get rid of the food dyes. How much are we going to lose in sales because we know people don't buy the dimmer, less vibrant colors? Right. That was the argument made by the food producers. They created cereals without the artificial food dyes. Sales went down. People liked the colors, so they brought them back. They're not going to abandon $1 billion in sales outside of West Virginia. You know what that means? Venture capitalists right now need to get on this. You invest in West Virginia, you will own food production, and it's food. You can't lose. It's guaranteed money.
Population's growing out here too. Good time to do it. The houses are growing up over like through the ground overnight. Yeah.
Sadly, I think West Virginia doesn't have the sway over the national regulatory scene that California does, but it's the first domino. And there's so many red states right now that if they follow West Virginia's lead on this, right, they need to act in concert, create that critical mass. Yeah. The reason that California has been able to dictate terms for so long is because it's been such a big state. Yeah. What if red states actually worked together, right? If so, he gave 2028 is when this kicks in. Okay, imagine by the end of 2026, 13, 14, 15, 16 different red states had put in place similar laws.
And Maha could really get involved in that.
You just need to make it more expensive and more expensive and more expensive for these people to not offer alternatives.
I want to stress, though, they banned blue 1, blue 2, green 3, yellow 5, yellow 6, red 40, red 3. They didn't ban carmine color.
Dang.
Oh, no.
So the bugs are still there.
The bugs will still be available for consumption.
Look, man, I have a feeling the bugs are actually not as bad for you as people think. They sound gross.
Agreed.
But I have a feeling that it's probably not terrible for you. They're bugs,
right.
and it sounds gross, but they're animals.
But better than petroleum byproducts.
It's better than that yellow that comes from tar or whatever it is, right?
Tartrazine.
Tartrazine, that's it.
So butylated hydrox.
People don't even have to consider eating the bugs because the food's healthy.
It's un-American to eat
butylated
bugs,
hydroxyanisole, BHA, prevents fats from going rancid, has been banned, and it looks like propylparaben was banned in 2020. Oh, no, West Virginia will prohibit. Yeah. Propylparaben was banned at propylparaben in California. It's used in tortilla chips, processed cheese, and packaged baked goods. Did you guys know what propylene glycol is?
No.
So we used that at O'Hare Airport to de-ice planes. Ethylene glycol, more commonly known as antifreeze. Propylene glycol is a bit different. We had two mixtures. We had a 50-50 concentration, and then I think we had a 100% concentration. I could be wrong. So what you do is, you get the orange and the green, right? You get it in a big cherry picker on a truck. I used to do this. What I did for a living. It was fun. And you'd wear crazy gear in a blizzard, and we'd grab the hose, and we'd open it up and blast the plane, just the whole wing, just with this orange sludge, which was heated 50-50 glycol water mixture. The reason why you use the glycol is it doesn't freeze, antifreeze, right? It's not ethylene glycol. It's not the kind that kills dogs. And then the thicker mixture was a sludge, a cold sludge, which you'd put on afterwards. You'd like hit a lever or whatever. And this would stop ice from forming on the plane for a certain amount of time.
So it's like a wax, like a
It's
car
a
wax,
gel.
basically. It seals
Like
it.
a gel. A gel that sits on the wing.
No, a gel, but like the purpose is to seal it from ice. Seal it off.
No, it's to coat it in a gel that can't freeze.
Okay.
So it falls off. It sloughs off. It's like it's I don't know. It's not like Jell-O. It's like a gel, you know. And they put it in food.
Yummy.
They put it in your baked goods. You go to the gas station, you grab. So they added it to baked goods to simulate fat. And a lot of what we do with our food simulates fat. So right now there's concerns colon cancer is skyrocketing among millennials. One theory is that the gum we add to all of our foods, there's Gelen gum, there's guar gum. What's the other one? Xanthan gum. There's another one that starts with a T, I think. Yeah, I don't know. But the argument is these things are not food, but they add a thickness to the food. So it gets jammed up in your colon, causing absorption problems, causing disorders and obesity and cancers, is one theory. We put that in to simulate fat. So I have this really great coconut milk that I love. I'm not going to drag them. They put Gelen gum in it. And so we decided to stop buying it because I'm like, look, you take a coconut, you give me the coconut meat from the inside and the coconut milk, the water, and I'll make something with it. But they want it to be thicker, like regular milk, which is thick because of fat and calcium, largely fat. Cream, yep.
Got to get rid of all of it.
They are poisoning all of our foods.
Yep.
I recommend you all look up propylene glycol and ask yourselves if you want to eat it.
Right.
They say it's safe to eat, but
Let's get the fluoride out of the water too.
I mean, just because it's safe to eat doesn't mean you want to eat it, right? I mean, I don't have any strong desire to eat propylene glycol.
It doesn't sound appealing
Viscous.
after Tim's description.
that is how it's described. It's described as viscous.
Nice.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds delicious.
Yep. It's
Gross.
used as a food additive. It's considered as GRAS by the FDA, generally recognized as safe. That's going to get banned.
Good.
RFK Jr. said he was going to be taking away the GRAS exemption.
Great.
So they're going to, dude, it is wild that propylene glycol is approved as used as a vehicle for topical, oral, and some intravenous pharmaceutical preparations. It's used as a food, whatever. Industrial uses. It's mainly used as, mainly produced from propylene oxide, but I don't care about its production. Tell me what they use it for. 45% of propylene glycol produced is used as chemical feedstock for the production of unsaturated polyester resins. In this regard, propylene glycol reacts with a mixture of unsaturated maleic anhydride and isophthalic acid to give a copolymer. This partially unsaturated polymer undergoes further cross-linking to yield thermoset plastics. Related to the application, propylene glycol reacts with propylene oxide to give oligomers. If you know what these things are, I have no idea what's going on.
I don't.
None of this shit should be in the human system.
It's used as an anti-caking agent, an emulsifier, a flavor agent, humectant, texturizer, stabilizer, solvent, antioxidant, really, antimicrobial, and thickener. I think it's disgusting. And it's
There you go.
antifreeze.
There you go.
See, I told you this is what we used to do. See this little thing?
Yeah.
I used to do that. You blast the plane. It was a lot of fun. Everybody wanted to do de-icing because it doesn't snow. Snow doesn't come. So if you have to be on staff as a de-icer. And so here's how it works. You're in the union. You make buddies with the head of the union. That's what I did. I made friends with one of the executive board members who eventually got elected vice president. And then I said, the next rotation comes up. I want to do de-icing. He goes, done. De-icing, you're usually just playing Xbox all day. Then if it snows, then you get to ride around in the top of a cherry picker, decked out in all this, like, you get a jumpsuit.
Sick.
You put it on, and then you blast the planes with a hose. It's one of the easier jobs to do, and it's a lot of fun. You have like this big fire hose, and one guy told me a story where his buddy was walking down like the pathway, and he blasted him with hot propylene glycol and just drenched him with it. And we were like, and then the guy training us on it was like, you know, they say it's fine to eat, and we all just like looked at each other like, is that guy okay? Like, he got blasted with an industrial Antifreeze?
He's a superhero now.
I don't know. He's probably got cancer.
Or that.
Origin story.
It's one or the other.
Oh, wait, what? They use it for vape?
Yeah.
Yeah. Propylene glycol is aerosolized to resemble smoke.
Veterinary medicine. Freezing point.
What are you smoking there? Tobacco? What about you? Antifreeze? Huh. Aerosolized antifreeze. Which one do you think is healthier?
What was the one go down for preserving insects or something?
Wait, what?
I missed it.
Preserving insects?
I was reading like half of it and it disappeared.
What's humectant mean?
I have
A hygroscopic water-absorbing substance used to keep things moist. Yep.
It's like
There you go. That's why they put it in baked goods in the grocery store, because it feels like it's moist like cake when it actually should be disgusting.
for trapping and preserving insects.
Which
including-
one?
You were just on it. It's like right there.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
For including as a DNA preservative. Wow.
Awesome.
Oh, these are for smoke
Oh
machines.
man, this is some pretty good stuff.
When used in
Give me more
average
of it.
quantities, propylene glycol has no measurable effect on the development and or reproduction on animals, and probably does not adversely affect human development or reproduction without active use. What does that mean?
I call BS.
Safety of electronic cigarettes.
It must be the opposite.
The safety of electronic cigarettes, which utilize propylene glycol-based preparations of nicotine or THC and other cannabinoids, is the subject of much controversy. Vitamin E acetate has also been identified in this controversy.
See LD50 there, which is the name of a Mudvayne album.
So,
Just want to throw that out there.
Make America healthy again. Let's go.
Yeah.
so does anyone know? I know somewhat of, seed oils started as oil to lubricate heavy machinery. and
Canola, I think it's canola specifically, right?
Canola, yeah, okay. So who's the wise guy who started applying these compounds, these materials to food? Like, I really don't. I haven't read anything on that. I'm not super up on all the Maha stuff. But these applications to food. I mean, for someone to be like, I'm going to lubricate my machine with this, and I'm going to take a swig of it. That seems insane to me.
Well, I don't know if anybody takes swigs.
I know, but how anyone got here in the first place?
Are you familiar with
bewildering.
sucralose?
No.
Splenda?
Yeah, okay.
Splenda is a brand name for sucralose. As the story goes, what I can't say is definitively true, because we've looked it up and we've put it on the show. A research student had mixed chlorine with sugar, and the professor or whatever said, test it. And he thought he said taste it, so he tasted it and said it's sweet. My understanding is that they're trying to make a pesticide. By combining chlorine with sugar, the sugar would attract insects and the chlorine would kill them.
Right. Wow.
And then we decided, hey, why don't we put this in little packets and put it in all our food?
People are like insects. Gross.
Yeah.
That's how they think. It's like when they wanted fluoride in the water.
People are like
They were like,
All
it'll
right,
fix
all right.
it'll fix the cavities.
All right, we're going to go to Rumble Rants and Super Chat. So smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. If you really do like the show, you got to share it. You got to share it. Shout out to Rumble. See, Rumble's doing what they can to promote the movement, the message, the show. We're featured on the front page. That's how it goes, because Rumble actually cares about video podcasting, and YouTube has actively suppressed it for a long period of time. So we can see where this trend is headed. But become a Rumble Premium member using promo code TIM10 to get access to the uncensored call-in show coming up in about 20 minutes. You don't want to miss it. And let's read what y'all have to say. Let's grab some of your rants on Rumble. Jamie Brocadile says, hilarious that the feminist Snow White goes against everything Disney stands for. She dedicates her life to doing what her white male father told her to do, literally bowing down to the patriarchy. You guys saw that feminist Snow White bombed
Yes.
miserably?
Not surprised.
Apparently,
Mercifully.
so apparently after they started making it, Peter Dinklage said, you're bigots for having dwarves.
Yeah.
So they decided to go with the 7 companions instead. Then everyone mocked them. So they said, we've got to do the dwarves, but what do we do with all this footage we paid for of 7 racially and gender diverse companions? Both.
Oh, wow.
They did both.
Good.
Amazing.
So there's 2 groups of weird 7 people, and it's like, that's not Snow White, I guess. And then Snow White, there's no prince. He's a dirtbag leftist. That's actually what the left has been calling him.
Like a male feminist type? Or?
No, he's a dirtbag leftist. He's like, it's like they're dirtbag leftists are anti-woke, but they're far left, anti-establishment.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so I don't really know if dirtbag leftists
Like
are
Destiny?
prominent. I don't know. Would you describe Destiny?
I just hear dirtbag and think that, but I could be wrong.
No, they're like Antifa types, but they don't get down with all the weird racial stuff.
Okay.
So they're anarchists who want to firebomb things. They're like black bloc activists during the Occupy movement, I guess.
I got you.
It's like the weird progressive gender stuff is like, what are you talking about? They're about class. But he convinces her to run away and lead a revolt against the evil fascist queen. And then Snow White defeats the queen by reminding the guards of what their names are. She says, like, your name is this, and remember what it used to be like? And then the guards turn on the evil queen, who then kills herself.
Wow.
She, like, runs away and then smashes the mirror, killing herself.
Wow. Sounds great.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't see it.
It's super cringe. They canceled the red carpet. The theaters were all empty. People were posting videos of their theater ticket screens, and it's like there's no seats purchased. People were filming empty theaters. I feel kind of bad because this arrogant Rachel Zegler didn't understand. Yeah. She thought what she was doing was popular, but they don't get it. And she's got this viral video where she says, to all the haters out there, to everybody who's trying to bring me down, I just hope that when I make a movie or music or whatever, people wait in line to see me. Yeah.
Oh.
Yup. Ooh, that one hurts.
Yeah.
Super Pooper says Elad is a communist.
Too bad he's not here.
Yep. String Raider says, why isn't the leprechaun holding a spoon? Oh, that's referring to Luck of the Seamus over at castbrew.com. Happy Gilmore says, my first rant on Rumble. Amazing that more people are viewing on Rumble than YouTube. We are winning. Indeed. So the audience is split a little bit. A lot of people from YouTube went over to Rumble instead. We have about 45,000 on Rumble and 35,000 on YouTube. So still very big numbers. Awesome. When we did the deal with Rumble and we started promoting the show on Rumble, our viewership just spiked because the Rumble audience is a different group of people. And now many people from the YouTube have switched to Rumble, but we still have a strong YouTube presence. There are a lot of people who are very confused because they thought Steven Crowder's announcement about getting off YouTube applied to Timcast IRL. It did not. And I said that from the get-go. The Tim Pool Morning Show Live is exclusive to Rumble, but Timcast IRL is available on all platforms. So, I think the main issue is that the morning show is kind of, I started doing live streams this year. I did some last year and I decided I would do a 10 a.m. live stream. We moved it to noon again. But this is just me by myself, where I just go live and do a segment I would normally do. So there's no real issue with us just saying, there is an audience there, but they haven't been subscribed to this channel for years, specifically for a live show. Whereas with Timcast IRL, we've got people who have listened to the show for 5 years now who watch on the YouTube TV app. And if we just blanket switched over, they would just be left confused and not know what was going on. Yeah. So we're gonna keep both up for the time being, but the morning show will be exclusive.
Last time I was here, you guys were talking about the YouTube Rumble balance. You're like, we've done a lot to invest in YouTube. So to see the Rumble doing crazy numbers like that, like, good for you guys. That's awesome.
Well, see, here's the thing. Rumble is actively trying to promote video podcast.
Yeah.
YouTube is actively trying to suppress video podcast. I think YouTube may have turned around when they realized the power of podcasting. But dude, for 10 years, YouTube was doing everything in their power to crush video podcasts. They were like, what's going on? Why are people talking about politics? We don't want this. It's bad for advertising. And so they started demonetizing people, suspending people, banning channels. Now, whoopsie, Spotify is desperately trying to get in the game. Rumble existed and adopted and said, you want to get rid of these video podcast shows? We'll take them. And now they have the biggest shows in the world. So I will say outright, Dan Bongino had the biggest live stream in the world and one of the biggest podcasts in the world. I'm pretty sure Dan Bongino, who since left to go serve the public, I'm pretty sure he had the biggest live streamed show in the world. I could be wrong. Definitely the United States. But he was averaging 150 to 170,000 concurrents. And yeah, he had 3.5 million subscribers. So he consistently was hitting the biggest show in the world. Steven Crowder now is getting the biggest show in the country. I'm not sure the world, though. There may be some Asian video gamers who get way more. And Kai Cenat regularly gets 300,000. But Crowder rivals that with a more consistent basis. But I can say, at least in terms of news, Rumble has all of the biggest cultural and political shows. 100%.
Yep.
So with the launch of the Rumble morning lineup, this morning I had 77,000 concurrent viewers watching. It's kind of crazy to see those numbers at any one time. And then the shows are getting 500,000 per episode now, 5 days a week. It's nuts. Same thing for Jeremy Hambley and Viva Fry. The viewership is skyrocketing because Rumble is actively trying to promote and build up a space. that Spotify is also desperately trying to build up, and that YouTube actively suppressed. Whoopsie.
That rocks. Shout out Dan Bongino for believing in the project too.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yep. And the big question now is, of course, YouTube is a major player with billions of views, but those views are largely Mr. Beast. They're entertaining vlogs from people like Mr. Beast. Video podcasting, cable network is done. Cable TV is done. Where will the average person go to consume audio-based news and culture? It's going to be video podcasts. So despite the fact that you compare Timcast IRL numbers to like Mr. Beast or some of these other shows, I look at some of these other YouTube creators and they get like 5 million views on one video they make, but they do like one a week because they're like highly produced. It's interesting to see that with less viewerships in the political space, you make substantially more money because it's like a pyramid. If you do an entertainment show like gaming, you're going to get a massive audience of generalists. They're going to watch you play a video game. When you're talking about politics, it's particularly esoteric, but politics controls everything. So specific ad rates can be way more valuable when you're talking politics. It's an interesting space to be in right now.
That's cool.
And I bet somebody got fired at YouTube. So for real, I bet there's executives being like, you mean all of the big video podcasts? There was nothing else. It was just YouTube. Now it's YouTube, Spotify, and Rumble. Oh. And then not to mention there's other platforms too. There's places like BitChute. But and X is trying to get into the space. YouTube had a monopoly on video podcasting. And they gave it away. Yeah. They actually battered their monopoly and got rid of it. That blew my mind. But hey, so be it. That's what you do, YouTube. Congrats. The interesting thing now is this next year in advertising is going to be real crazy. With Rumble hitting these massive numbers and having the biggest shows in the country, it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
We'll see though.
Beware of soda.
We'll grab some super chats. All right, what do we have here? Brad Matuzik says the Atlantic goes on to state additional facilitating strike team members on the thread to include Hawk, Duke, Flint, and Beachhead. Is that a joke? Is that a TV show reference?
Yeah, those are G.I. Joe characters.
Oh, okay, I figured. There you go.
At least that or Top Gun or something. Yeah.
Zany Zan says, big fan, Tim. Can I get a shout out to Sylvia in Mexico? Shout out, Sylvia. Mexico's great. I love Mexico. They got Buffalo Wild Wings.
Just don't come up here. Just stay in Mexico, Sylvia. We don't want anything bad to happen to you, Sylvia.
All right. Mini Matt says, Sam's cashier, 98% accuracy. You can guess form of payment. Cart mostly empty, essential goods, food, cash, debit, cart. What is this about? I don't know what you mean. Prices are going down? Is that the point? There was a viral post from Reddit where someone said something is strange is going on. Costco prices are dropping dramatically.
Yeah.
How is this possible? This shouldn't be happening. And it's like, uh-oh.
I mean, good things for the economy or, bad things for
Trump just got a voter for 2028.
I know, right?
Liber8 USA says, just want to thank Tim for pronouncing my name correctly in previous episodes. Indeed.
Nice.
Liber8 says, got an actual question. Can you start doing a Saturday show once a month only on Rumble Premium? I really need y'all some weekends. So here's the plan. The first Culture War live is set for the beginning of May. We're doing it as a pilot, so we're doing it low budget. I actually asked the team if you want to do ultra high budget. It's like, let's just get a big casino venue and sell tickets and get 1,000 seats or some ridiculous amount. And I was like, no, we should do a pilot. So we're going to have like 40 or 50 seats. We're going to do a debate. Members of Timcast.com Discord will be able to come up on stage and join at the table with us and debate us. You're going to be vetted. As members, you'll RSVP. The tickets will be free, but you got to be a member. So sign up for a member, $10 a month for at least 6 months or $25 to start right away. You can then submit your debate concept, a single sentence, couple sentences, whatever. We will then have someone at the crew or maybe even the Discord choose. I think maybe we'll do it that way. They can vote on who they think should actually come up and debate. No, maybe not, because we might need diversity in terms of like the people, not like leftist diversity. We need different people every week.
War, yeah. No, yeah,
but then you'll come up, and I think we're going to do 5 people over the 2 hours from the members who will come and join us to debate on stage. When we do this, these will be held on Saturday nights, which means there will be a Friday morning news show. Culture War will move to a different time slot we need to figure out. And then there will be bonus segments on the weekend from the Timcast morning show. So we've got big plans where I'm going to be doing substantially more work and having substantially less time off, and my wife is going to get very mad when she finds out.
No one tell her.
No, she knows. She knows. She's actually doing the work to help plan it and set it all up.
She's actually submitting a debate prompt, which is, why the heck would you work this much?
She's actually upset because now that we just had the baby, she has mom work.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. But mom work is tough work.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
very tough work. And it offends me that so many feminists disparage the mom work stuff.
Dad work seems chill.
It offends me that so many feminists.
Yes. No, but like dad work is hard work too.
Of course.
And so, I'm going to go and do the shows. I'm going to do a morning show and a night show. We're going to bring home the bacon. But mom work is taking care of a creature that cries bloody murder for literally anything. And it is funny because I know there's a lot of people who've had way more kids than I and have been through this. But as a new dad, I had this funny idea for a skit where I was just imagining, could you imagine if every adult human handled their problems the way a baby does? Like a guy's at work and his coffee's empty and he looks up and just starts bashing his face, screaming, ah!
So leftists.
Exactly. That's exactly what Allison said.
Nice.
She was like
Nice.
leftists, and I was like, hey. Good
job, Allison, yeah.
They're like babies. Everyone just walking around screaming at the top of their lungs until someone refills their coffee.
That's hilarious.
But I love my baby, and it's just when she cries bloody murder, I'm just laughing because I'm like, to the baby, this is the end of the world. I need
Literally the worst thing that has ever happened to this
Exactly.
child. Because there's only like 3 things that have happened.
Exactly. So she's screaming and beat red, and I'm like, she just wants to drink a protein shake.
It's so cute.
Yeah. We're trying the goat milk protein shakes because we have the hipster baby.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what we did with our first.
Goat milk?
Goat milk, yep.
Because some babies, there's concern that they can't digest the cow proteins that are in it or whatever.
That's what
Something
our
like
firstborn
that.
had. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he couldn't digest the cow protein, so there was blood in the stool. And
We didn't have anything-
goat milk fixed it.
We didn't have anything like that. Baby just might have an upset stomach. And so they just recommended we try goat milk and see if that
Like real
makes a
gassy,
difference.
yeah.
But for the most part, we're trying not to use formula
Yeah. Yeah.
because,
There's a lot of bad stuff in formula.
Yes,
and
there is.
there's like old formula companies that were good that were bought by bigger companies and they put the bad stuff in it. Probably like the stuff they pour on airplanes in Chicago.
I recommend people have as many babies as they can. Have lots of babies.
Agreed.
As many as you can. Maybe for some people it's 12. Maybe for some people it's 1.
Yeah.
DJ Watson says, I love all your shows, but IRL is my favorite by far. If you wouldn't mind shouting out my buddy's new company, mankybusiness.com, selling Japanese Pokemon cards, one of the few places in the U.S. There you go. It's crazy how valuable Pokemon cards are.
Yeah, it is great.
I once had a whole bunch of first edition Charizards. I guess that's like millions of dollars that are gone.
Shucks.
Jeez.
Yep.
It's like those Bitcoin you lost in that computer.
That's true.
Dang.
It's crazy. Hoard everything. Just never throw anything away because you never know.
I got all mine since I was a kid, still locked up somewhere. I think that collection's like $10,000 at some point. At this point, it's gonna pay for my kids going to college.
What was? Well, I mean, you're 27.
Yeah. No, I had like first generation, second generation cards.
Like the first original edition or whatever.
I mean, not like the Japanese one.
No. But like the first set that came out.
Yeah.
Because you would have been a baby.
Yeah, I know. I got all these like a year or two later when it wasn't a big thing.
So you were like 1 or 2?
No, I was really young when I got into it. I would say like I was like 4 when I started liking Pokemon. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember
Had
when
all
it came
that
out, and I think I was like 10 or 11, and so I had tons of Pokemon cards. I was playing Magic the Gathering before that, and I had a binder with a bunch of Charizards in it. Who didn't? Everybody had a bunch of Charizards. Now they're worth $250,000.
Do you think my Pogs are worth anything?
Yes.
Really?
For real?
What is that?
Thanks. Phil's trying to shoot it down. You don't know what
So,
Pogs are? Oh, man.
I had this idea.
The greatest sports ever.
I got an idea. Who wants? This is a shout out to everybody watching right now. My idea. I want to open a hotel, maybe a Vrbo Airbnb, that's going to have. It probably would just have 5 rooms. One room, it's the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. You go into the 80s hotel room, you book it. Everything is from the 80s. 80s couch, 80s TV. You turn the TV on, it's analog TV, and it will literally play I think the max we would do is like 3 days, but it'll actually play. We'll get a like an Arduino or like a Raspberry Pi or something. Not an Arduino, Raspberry Pi, and we will have it play television from that period, and you will actually turn the dial, UHF, VHF, And you can watch in real time at 7 a.m. here in New York. You're watching, and then whatever news program with the actual news program of that time. The windows will be TV screens that you will be able to look out, and you will be in, like when you look out, when you look into the screen in the window, it looks like you're in 1980s New York or whatever, or wherever it might be. So this has been, I've had this idea for like 8 years. Just need somebody who wants to do it.
Sounds
We got the capital. The concern is, in all seriousness, do you know what the biggest concern with this is? The reason why I bring this up?
The amount of money that it would cost to set up those rooms. I'd
Absolutely
imagine.
not.
No?
No way. Super easy. You'd have, we'd have delivery menus on the fridge from like 1980s Pizza Hut. And we'll actually have a guy deliver it to you dressed in the old uniform with the old Coke and everything.
I was imagining all the like original nice stuff from then would
Money's no problem. A business costs money and people will pay to go there. What's the biggest problem? No ideas? Nope. Nope. You could pick up the phone and actually down. The biggest problem is suicides. That's why I say the POGs are so valuable. The actual consideration, and it's not a joke, is that there's going to be some guy who's 50 and he's going to book the 1980s room and his wife divorced him and he's going to be sitting in the 1980s remembering when he was a young man and life was good and he's going to be crying himself and then... So we don't know how to handle...
You can transition to it like a MAID program, like in Canada.
No,
right?
let's
like
not.
a nicer suicide pod for people.
Let's not.
Sound like a good idea?
When I brought this up to my
Still is
buddies
not
in business,
entertaining this at all.
they
Neither
said
am
an intense nostalgia like that will attract people who are desperate and sad.
Oh, wow.
And you may end up with people who are in rough times wanting to re-experience a moment of happiness. And then you may have a higher density of suicides and self-harm than any other business.
How morbid.
Well, that escalated quickly.
Remind me of the suicide forest in Japan.
You see? All right, my friends, we're going to go to that uncensored call-in show at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. So smash that like button.
That last story.
Share the show with everyone you know and become a Rumble Premium member so you can watch. Use promo code TIMCAST10. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. You want to shout anything out before we go?
Yeah, Bradley Devlin, politics editor at the Daily Signal. Follow me on X at Bradley Devlin. Also follow my work not only at the Daily Signal, but on the Daily Signal's YouTube page. I am the host of a show called The Signal Sit Down, where we try to interview lawmakers and other policymakers in Washington, D.C., show you how the sausage gets made because it's your government and we need to take it back. And the only way that we're going to do that is so that you know how it actually works.
Sweet. That was a fun one. You can find me online at Shane Cashman. Our show is Inverted World Live every Sunday at 6 p.m. You can find us on YouTube and Rumble. And this Saturday, I'm going to be at the Grifties as a presenter with Milo Yiannopoulos, Alex Stein, the Hoteps. So you can check it out. It's in Jersey. You can get tickets at Tiff's Comedy. We'll see you there.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The Band Is All That Remains. Our new record called Anti-Fragile dropped on January 31st. It's available. You can check it out on Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, Spotify, Deezer, and YouTube. Don't forget the left lane is for crime.
We will see you all at rumble.com/TimcastIRL in about 30 seconds. Don't miss it. Thanks for hanging out.